Hello and welcome to another episode of Leaders of Transformation. Today we have a treat. We have someone actually who comes to us through Esther Hunter, who has been on the show previously. I was speaking with Esther recently, and she said to me she had actually just returned from my hometown of Toronto, Canada, and she had attended an event there. And she mentioned this very influential gentleman's name, and she said, you need to have him on your show. Dr. Macaulay Kalu. He plays a significant role in both of the political arena and the civil service sector. It's Friday afternoon, forgive me, I'm tongue-tied. As the chairman of the African Union 6th region of Canada. And so I invited him on to talk about what the African Union is about, what is their mission, so we can help to create greater awareness around what they're doing and how you can get involved, and also what can we learn from them and in what they're doing. So Dr. Kalu, welcome to Leaders of Transformation. We're excited that you're here today.
Thank you so very much, Nicole. It's absolutely a pleasure just joining you today, and thank you for a mutual connection, Esther Hunter, who is making this happen as well. So I'm really excited to join you today to talk about this one community of God, and what God is doing is bringing people together for humanity, for the good and better humanity. So I'm excited about it. Thank you.
Yes. And a shout out also to my friend Corey Silver, because we were just chatting, Dr. Kalu and I were chatting, and I said, oh, do you know Corey Silver? Because I know she's very involved in Toronto, in the community Toronto. He says, oh, I know her very well. Well, Corey is one of my closest friends. And so it's a small world.
I'm excited. So you're a very good friend too, and she's doing a lot, and so much, of course, she's involved. As a matter of fact, she was at the same function that Esther was just not too long ago as well, and she helped out in that process. So yes, Corey, we love you. We appreciate all you're doing in the community as well. So excited. Yeah.
Yes. Well, so let's talk about the African Union. For those people that are not aware of what it is, what is it and what's your role in it? Let's start there.
So I am the chairperson of the African Union 6th region. So just to give a little bit of an understanding. So you have the continent of Africa that has over, 1.2 billion people. And it's made up of what we call 5 regions. So when you say regions, so there are 55 countries in the continent of Africa. So when people hear Africa, it's not a country, it's a continent. And there are 55 countries that make up the continent of Africa. And out of these 55 countries, it's divided into 5 different regions. You have Northern Africa, Southern Africa, Eastern, Western, and Central Africa. Okay? And so with that, the continental leaders felt the need, because there's a lot that has happened with the continent of Africa, with the transatlantic slavery that are over 400 years. As a matter of fact, August 20th will be marking 400 years of the first, slave trading that happened within the Atlantic. So that's 400 years. So with all that, we have a spread of a lot of people of African descent globally. And, the continental leaders felt the need to reach out to all people of African descent. Now, before that, we need to understand that life began in Africa. Now, nobody debates about that. So we know the history, and we know that life began in Africa. And so if life began in Africa, it means that one way or the other, we're all connected. Okay. As one that believes in God and knows the process of what God did for all of us, we're all brothers and sisters, doesn't matter where we come from. And we need to understand what that means, that we need to understand love, that God himself being love connects all of us through love. And if we can respect and understand love, there'll be a lot of peace and unity within the world today. So having said that, we have the continent of Africa as leaders reaching out to his sons and daughters globally. So it's not just about those who say, okay, I know where I come from, I'm African diaspora, but I've also African heritage. So for me, I said, if you feel or know or find out that you have 1% of African blood in you, you're an African. Just 1%. We don't need too many. Just 1%. And which means that we are all the same. We're all connected. So having said that, and that's why even the definition of the African Union as a sixth region, which is known as the diaspora, is there anybody of African origin, irrespective of your citizenship, living outside of the continent of Africa, but chooses to connect back to the continent, either as a person of African origin or as a friend of Africa. We welcome you as a member of the family. So having said that, in 2012, they decided to establish or launch what they call the sixth region of the continent of Africa. So the sixth region means the diaspora, all people of African origin, irrespective of your citizenship and where you were born, but you decide to be connected, you are part of the sixth region. So I was privileged to be one of the key facilitators that helped into the working document, the concept notes, and all that stuff. I've been in this journey for over 20 years. And so it was exciting in 2012 when the heads of states of Africa adopted this idea, accepted it, and then made Africa sixth region as the diaspora. And so it's a very exciting process. And so that's what my role is, to help to facilitate the sixth region globally, mobilizing people of African descent, giving them the opportunity to be able to be connected with the leadership of Africa. So you have I'm just giving a little history here that I think it's important that we all understand. And so when you hear about the African Union, there is a little bit of few layers of the African Union. So you have the African Union that is made up of the leadership of the 55 heads of states. Okay. And so with the African Union leadership, every year, they elect one president that will govern them for 1 year. Okay, so last year was the Rwandan president. This year is the Egyptian president from Egypt. So he's leading this year. He was elected in early February, and so to the next summit, which they do every year, mostly twice a year, but the electoral process is within a year. So January, February, the heads of state will meet, and we'll call it heads of state summit, and then they will have the election. And so they will choose somebody who will guide them for 1 year. So after the African Union, you have what we call the African Union Commission. Now, the Commission is the administrative body of the African Union, okay, which is situated at Addis Ababa in Ethiopia. That's where the headquarters is situated. So you have the headquarters of the whole continent of Africa in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and is the administrative body of the African Union. And so the African Union Commission now have a chairperson, which is who is elected. He or she will be, go through the electoral process, and if they win, they lead the process for 4 years. Okay. So we have Faki Mahamat, who is the current chairperson of the African Union, and then you have the vice chairperson, and you have about 8 commissioners that takes different roles, from the different commissioners of the African Union. So we also have what we call the African Union Foundation, which is a kind of the foundation, the non-for-profit aspect that helps with several activities. And we also have what we call the ECOSOC, which is Economic, Social, Cultural Commission of the African Union. And with that, you have what we also call the Citizenship and Diaspora Directorate or organization. So the Citizenship and Diaspora Directorate is the one that is being mandated to oversee every aspect of the global diaspora. And so they have policy leaders from that office. For example, Nana Osei is in charge of the Americas, which includes North, South, Central America, and the Caribbean. So Nana Osei is in charge as a policy advisor there at the AU, who is interestingly Canadian, is a Canadian, and so he is in charge of that as a policy advisor. And so I'm also a policy advisor for what we call the Diaspora Focal Point, which is a civil society body that advises, the heads of states or member states of how to relate with the diaspora community globally. So I was elected in November last year for the next 2 years to give direction on policy relations for the whole of the Americas. So I'm a civil society elected person who gives direction for that. And what does that mean? It means that I help to, give advice and also help in shaping a policy when it comes to relationship, for example, Canada and Africa. Okay. So as a government, so I deal with global affairs. They know me very well. We call global affairs, so they deal with the relationship between what happens and how and what are the activities, how does Canadian government relate with Africa. So we talk about all those stuff, and also how do we support the diaspora, African diasporans here in Canada, or and the same goes with the US and any other place like that. So that's my role. Of course, it leads to a lot of traveling, which I do in helping to see that something is being done. It's all about bringing our community together to achieve one common goal.
So what is that common goal?
Well, the common goal is that, like I said, the world could be a better place if we understand what love is all about, and so it's a very interesting that, like I said, life began in Africa. And, when you respect, it doesn't matter what happens in life. We call it Mother Africa, which means the one that gave birth, to life. And so Africa has given birth to a lot of us. If we go back to history and what we know about Africa, Africa is the origin of life, and it's also the origin of civilization. A lot of great philosophers and leaders studied in Egypt, and we saw the pyramid and saw so many history of what showed how far Africa has come. And so with all that, it tells you that our love and our respect to Africa is a love and respect to each and every one of us. By understanding that, Africa gave birth to all of us. It doesn't matter where you come from. I speak around the world, universities, different places. I give lectures and I give talks. And sometimes when I say I was in somewhere in Germany and I said, we are all Africans and we are one family. And I had a German person really challenged me and said, no, you don't need to say that. I'm from Eastern Europe. I am not from Africa. And I said to him, I give you a challenge to go and do your family history. And if you don't see any roots about Africa in yours, I will never use those statements again. Less than 3 months, we had another event, a conference that I had to be in Germany. And, he was bold enough to come back to me and said, you were right. I was shocked and surprised that tracing down my family history, which was not even too far away, the way he put it, that actually we all come from Africa. And somebody else from Sri Lanka told me that he also did that when he heard me say that, and he found out his roots also come from Africa. So it's interesting, by all I'm saying is that by understanding what that means to each and every one of us is to say that there is a God. There is a God that created all of us, and it's interesting the way He designed all of us. And by whether we choose not or choose not to, but acknowledging, respecting, and understanding that we are one people. I tell people, I said, the blood that runs in us is red. Okay, it's one, and so if any drop of blood falls by your side, and you walk past it, you don't know who owns it. Right? You need to go through a lot of process to determine who owns that. So the question on, what is that assignment? What is that we are to do is to say that by us being able to connect together, it makes life much easier to achieve the goal of peace that we are looking for. The world is in trouble. The world is seeking peace, but the world can only know peace by knowing its source of life, which is love, which is God Himself. And by understanding that is that by we choosing to love ourselves. Now, I tell people that you cannot love another person if you don't love yourself. True love starts within. One of the greatest commandments of God is love your neighbor as yourself. And people focus so much on loving other people because it says love other people, but it says love them as you love yourself. And so the law is for you to love people as you love yourself. And so if you appreciate yourself and love yourself, it's a natural process for you to love other people. You don't learn to love people. You just love them because that's who you are. I give an illustration. If you're someone that works so hard and you get so busy and you forget to eat food, which means that what you are trying to achieve is more important than food. It's not that you don't want to eat food, but you have a goal and you do that all the time. Now, it's natural for you, even though you have people working with you, it's not that you want to starve them, but because you are so focused on achieving a goal, guess what? They're all going to be hungry with you.
Yes.
Right? And because it's just natural.
It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable if everybody's always concerned about everybody else and not concerned about themselves. It's not sustainable.
Exactly. So the first thing is for you to understand how to create a balance and know that food is also important. That I need to take care of myself. I need to do certain things. And by me doing that, I'm also helping humanity as well because I'm taking care of the people around me. Okay, and so that's very important to understand the policy, the law, and the philosophy of love. That you get to love yourself, appreciate yourself. It doesn't matter what and how you look. You just get to appreciate that humanity that God has made you to be. That person, that is so sweet. That God has made you to be. Appreciate. It doesn't matter how it looks. Look in the mirror and appreciate yourself. We've allowed other people to define who we are and how we should look and what. It's all great, but by you now appreciate yourself, you pay attention to what you eat and what you do, and all. That's all part of love, And so, but it starts from within before any changes will happen in any other form. So that's the whole essence of us being able to come together and be able to work together and achieve a common goal. We're doing trade. Recently the continental leaders came together and decided to have one free trade agreement. So there is a free trade agreement that's been established, which is going to make Africa the biggest trade agreement in the world. I mean, look at 55 countries signing trade agreement. One of the last ones that did that was Nigeria, that just signed that agreement, making it the biggest market in the world. And so by the time they finish the process and go through all that it takes to get that running, okay, do you hear me now? I don't know.
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Do you hear me? Okay, yeah. Great. So, once again, it's just to say there's a free trade agreement within the 55 countries of Africa, making Africa one of the biggest trade partners, within themselves, which is going to be one of the biggest growing market. So much is happening within the continent. West Africa country would always like to lead the process. They have, which is about 15 countries in the Western African region. So we call the regions regional economic communities. So that's what each region represents. So in 2020, I think January, they are working so hard. The ECOWAS, which is the Economic Community of West African States, will be having one currency called ECO. Okay, that's going to be used by 15 countries. And so there's a lot of great things happening in Africa. A lot of changes. We're not where we plan to be, but we're not where we used to be. So a lot of things that's happened. A lot of improvement and changes. Currently now, the idea of the diaspora, the sixth region, is to mobilize all people of African descent for the social economic development of the continent of Africa and the diaspora. So the goal is not just to focus in Africa, but also focusing in ourselves. Like I said, charity begins at home. We got to love yourself. So we got to take care of ourselves. And Africa has suffered what we call the brain drain over the years, through different levels of migration, whether through war or academic studies, so many things that has led a lot of people, which we see today and globally, expats, surgeons, and so many expats around the world that come out of Africa. And so it's a time to give back, to the continent. And so the sixth region is the mobilization tool and the funnel or process by which now the global leaders, and especially from the continent, can pull from, and help Africa to get to the next level that it's supposed to be. Now, interestingly, the remittances alone of the diasporas into the continent of Africa, it's a lot of money. Nigeria alone last year, remittance that was studied was over $22 billion, one country alone, right? And that is above the country's budget. Right? So which means these remittances help to create jobs because they are building houses, they are helping pay school fees, they are helping do different things, and so helping their families and friends, and so it's helping the economy. So imagine if the diasporans are not doing that, what will happen to that economy? And so they decided to pay attention to what's going on with the diaspora and the friends of diaspora to say, well, we really need you, and we need it to be on the table. So what it means is that we are part of the Heads of State Summit, and there are consultation activities that happen with the civil society. So you have the political and diplomatic process of the African Union because they deal with policy, but they are not the one that do implementation. So they have partners, which is the civil society organizations and agencies that now will help for those policies and plans that they come up with to implement those policies. And so we have one of our biggest goals, which you call Agenda 2063, which is a 50-year plan that we have. Agenda 2063 was launched in 2013 when we celebrated the 50th anniversary of the African Union. It used to be called the Organization of African Unity, okay, OAU. And then in 2000, around 2000, 2001, it was changed to African Union. Actually, that agreement was made in 1999, September 9, 1999. So the original establishment of the African Union was done in May 25th, 1963. And so that's how far that we've come. So when we did the 50th anniversary of the African Union, we now launched a 50-year plan, which we call the Agenda 2063. That's why 63, which 2013 to 2063 is 50 years. And so making it the 50-year plan. And so if somebody goes there, you can find it online, Google it. If you go there and check Agenda 2063, you will actually see a plan, a direction. When somebody say, what's African Union about? What are they working on? What is the agenda? What's their goal? Everything is detailed there. All the commissions, all their activities, where they're going, what they want to achieve, where economically and otherwise. Everything is outlined there. So it's very exciting for our people to watch and monitor what's happening. And also they are all in line with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which is, the overall that every nation in the world is working towards. So we're very excited with what's happening in that whole process, within the continent.
Fantastic. Wow. There's so much in that and what you shared, and thank you for detailing that and sharing that. So we'll make sure that there's some links on the website in our show notes so that people can find those details. Now, you mentioned about love and as somebody who loves God as well, I always think, like, this is not so complicated. Why do we make this so complicated? Love one another as yourself. But it is complicated when we don't love ourselves and we don't understand what love is and all of that. I do believe that every single person on this planet, no matter who they are and where they come from, ultimately just simply want to love and be loved at the very core. They want to take care of their families. Now, how they do that and what needs to happen in order for them to do that is where, of course, all the different, the dissension comes in, because they need to eliminate somebody or conquer something or whatever to be able to have that love and or be able to have that safety and protection for the value for their family. Now let's talk about, in the few minutes that we have left, I would love to talk about, you have a mission. So you talk about 2063. Now you have a mission by 2021 that you're working on, and you have a launch coming up in the fall and so forth. And so talk about that, and then talk about how people can get involved. So they hear this and they say, wow, this is fascinating. And like you said, we're all one, one family, right? We're all coming from we're born to the same place. So, so there's other people that are going to want to be supporters, right? And come and be part of this. How do they get involved? So what's the mission for 2021 and how do they get involved?
Thank you so very much for bringing that up. Africa is so blessed to have the biggest assets, and their biggest assets is the youth. The youth is our biggest asset. So 60% of our population are the youth. So, which is interesting. Having said that, one of the challenges as well is the aspect of jobs, unemployment, which is a global issue anyways, but within the continent, the amazing thing about Africa is that they've learned how to take care of their own. Africa is the only place that when there is any situation in one country, the next country opens their border. You don't hear anyone blocking their borders or anything, unless if it's on a deadly situation like the Ebola or something like that, just to control or manage something like that. But if it has to do with war or economic situation, they don't block their borders. We have a lot of displaced individuals who are refugees in different borders of Africa due to one challenge or the other. But guess what? They are doing what they can to live as one people. They are doing what they can to manage the situation and take care of each other. And so, which is very beautiful. If every other people in the world could learn how to do that, it will be amazing. And so that's what is happening. Africa is being very good. As a matter of fact, United Nations acknowledged that Africa has taught the world a lot about what it means to take care of one another. And we do that very well. Having said that, we have also come up with the fact that, yes, we have realized that unemployment with our young people, especially 25 and under, which makes up about 60% of our population, which is a great blessing and asset. And so we looked at what can we do to support them and to help them. And we come up with so thanks to the chairperson of the African Union, Mr. Faki Muhammad, who, through the office of the African Union chairperson, and also the office of the Commissioner for Human Resources, Science and Technology, Professor Sarah Anyang Abo, who is also in charge of the youth development in the whole of the continent of Africa, as well as of education. So she's an amazing, passionate woman that loves the continent, loves the young people. And I tell you, this woman is a force to know about, and she loves what she does. A professor, of course, you can imagine, a mother as well, who have that passion for the young people and as well as science. And so they, through her office and the office of the chairperson, launched the initiative called 1 million by 2021. So what it means is that we plan to, establish, 1 million jobs in the next 2 years. And so the exciting thing is that it's something that we believe that everybody can help us do that. We launched that in April 27th this year, 2019. In Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, the headquarters. It was amazing. Over 400 young people were invited, sponsored, and they came together to be part of the process. It was a 3-day program from, I believe it was 24th to 27th. And they came up with ideas, growth capital plan and whatever that it would take, to really establish all that. And it was beautiful. And then we had so many partners on the table, like World Bank, United Nations, UNICEF, different banks, Afrexim Bank and Eco Bank, and so many other partners, VMway and Aga Khan, and so many other organizations that came on the table to make pledges and promises. European Union that even already have started projects already for skill training in Africa. Especially German government, that were there on the table, Korea, US. There was so many partners that came to see what they can do to support this process. So it's a beautiful plan. But we in the diaspora felt that the news is not spreading enough. And we've decided to, launch a campaign to create awareness for this project. And so we call it a lead campaign. So we call it Lead Africa campaign. So there's a campaign going on that we've decided to use to mobilize, everybody, governments and private, civil society, private and civil society organizations to come on board and be part of this process to help us with the job creation. But at the same time, we are building capacity within the diaspora. So because we are hoping that the diaspora will help us to take on this initiative. So we put programs in place that will build capacity for the diaspora to be able to also help with various government agencies and individuals and professionals and skilled individuals to do that. So we have two ways of doing that. The lead campaign, which means leadership. So the lead is an acronym that we come up with leadership, and so also the project is under 4 E's. We call it the 4 E's, which is education, entrepreneurship, employment, as well as engagement. So it's called the 4 E's. So this whole thing is going to be centered around these 4 E's, education, employment, entrepreneurship, and engagement, which are all interconnected with each other. So through these 4 E's, we also have what we call 12 pathways that we're going to use, under these 4 E's, to make this happen. So we're very excited in the program, on the project and initiative. But from our office, the Diaspora office, we come up with a plan called Trade with Africa. So Africa says we don't really into AIDS anymore. It's not, the way to go forward. We want to trade with the world. And so we've come up with an initiative as a plan to help with the project and the plan of what we're doing, which is called Trade. And the trade aspect is still an acronym, which is going to be technology. We want to trade on technology and train our people so the rest of the world can be part of that process. We have a lot of great minds that are coming up with ideas in technology from Africa that can help the world. And we've seen a lot of revolutions coming on the aspect of technology. And so technology is one way through different aspects of ICT, AI, robotics, 3D printing, Industry 4.0. There's so many things that are happening through technology, which we are having partners under that aspect of technology, innovation and innovative thinking and all that stuff that are going to help us in that aspect. So we have great people like Dr. Adiola, Olumatiji, and so many other people, Margaret, and so many technology experts that are on the table. We partnership with General Electric and so many people that are coming on board to help with this project. And then we have the R, which is retail. Retail industry is a huge industry. And so we're looking forward that, we will grow our retail market and organize it very well. Here in North America, you have the big malls and you have the plazas, right? And they are all properly structured. And so, but in Africa, the market could be scary sometimes, Here we have street markets, farmers market, which are properly structured, and we are looking forward to do the same. Some places are getting along very well and putting plans in place, and so we want to see that across, that even if you are traveling as a visitor, you could freely go into the market, and whether as a tourist or whatever it's structured, you could easily see what is in the market, and you could add to the community. And so trade is a big thing. You see a young person who want to get oranges or fruits or something, they go to sell, because trade is just retail is a big thing. So we want to grow our retail market. And so, like I said, you have technology, you have retail, and the A is the agronomy, which is the agri economy, which is huge on its own, different aspect of that. And then we have the D, which is development. We want to do development, social and economic development, because management is a major issue, in Africa, which we are doing what we can, because even here also, it's a lot of businesses that come up thousands every year, but because of lack of management, they can't sustain themselves, they can't survive. And so we want to put a proper structure in place that will help the aspects of development socially and economically for the continent. And then you have the E that represent, once again, employment, entrepreneurship, education, all that aspect of the E, that we're looking for to have people to engage with us. And then the last one, which I said trades, is S, which is skill training and skill development. So under these trades, we've come up with a program to help, move our continent forward. And we are looking for partners to help us, whether it's private investors or government agencies or fund. If you say you love Africa, these are areas that we wanted to partner with us. We wanted to trade with us. We wanted to come in and work so that it's a win-win situation. You come in as an expert, as a consultant, you make money. We make money too, because you're training or you're supporting or you're expanding your business. Your retail industry, you bring into Africa 1.2 million people. We love to buy stuff. We like good things. It's a big market. We say, come, create a market there, expand your business there. Everybody's okay. So these are things that we are working on, thing that is very important, that we understand, what we're doing and where we're going. We're using those, lead campaign as well as the trade aspect in the process of what we're doing. So we're very excited about that. And of course, we are putting everything in place. People can find that on our website as we are still putting things in place. The African AU6ROC.org, African Union 6 region, Canada, org, and that's what that is. And also we have a consortium of consultants that we've put together that will help us with this process under what we call Muka Consult. So people can go online and they could see also Muka Consult where a lot of information about the initiative is there. One of our media companies that is helping also is Global African Media, where you go online as well. You will see 1 million by 2021. There's a lot of documents and information, the scope of 1 million by 2021. And I believe, Nicole, you'll probably help us to put that out there on your link as well, so that in case people thinking about it, they'll be able to read a little bit about it and learn more about it. So this is where we are. I mean, yes, we said 1 million by next 2 years, but it's not going to stop there. That's why we have these two programs, the lead campaign and the trades, program as an initiative to have this as an ongoing program. But yes, we will measure and monitor the process. If you are good in data collection, you have app for such things, technology, come, talk to us, let us know how you can be of help. You have money that you want to invest, you want to grow your market. Africa, it's an important continent right now, and there's a lot of opportunities right there. Some people say, I'm not sure. Just talk to us. We help you with the countries that will give you enabling environment to grow your business. So we say we want to trade with you. So we're not talking about aid or whatever. No, that's not what we say. Come, let's do business together. We are ready for business, and people of African descent, we are also, I'm a Canadian, I'm also from the continent. So I've been able to enjoy the benefits and the opportunities of Canada, and saying that the same things that we have here, can also be established there. But, so many people, which I encourage and challenge anybody, remember, we're all from Africa. So if you've never been to Africa, take the challenge. Come with me. take a trip to Africa. You will love the roots where you come from, and you will fall in love. That's why a lot of people, they go and visit, and a lot of people pack up and go back to Africa. It's a beautiful country. Is the things that we pay a lot of money as organic is just natural. Everything is natural there. We don't have to pay extra for anything called organic because the food is organic on itself. And so if you want to have a healthy, beautiful weather, sunshine, we say it's 12 months, sunshine, and it's beautiful, beautiful people welcoming, accepting, and you will find the people that look like you. It doesn't matter where you come from. Go to the continent, you will find people that look like you, from different parts of Africa. So it's a beautiful continent, beautiful people welcoming, and is the mother of us all. And so we're excited that you joining us in this project, is joining, blessing yourself as well. And for you to understand it means that you understand what love means, loving yourself, caring for yourself, and you will naturally be in part of this process to care for your brothers and sisters in the continent of Africa. And so we're excited and welcoming the whole world to get back home to the roots where love began.
Amen. Yeah, there's so much excitement. You mentioned about Africa is a continent that is on the move. I interviewed a gentleman a few months ago, George Gugnan. He's actually an expert in blockchain, and he's from Russia, and he is working with governments on the African continent to create the infrastructure that will allow for the trade to happen more seamlessly amongst countries. So very, very exciting. So we heard him talk about that. We're hearing you talk about what you're doing, and it's awesome. So thank you so much, Dr. Kalu, for coming on and sharing with us a little about this passion, which you are so obviously so very passionate about. And I have people in my mind that I think about, and I think, oh, I wonder if he knows so-and-so, and we can make some connections though. But thank you so much. I appreciate you, and I appreciate our listeners and viewers for being here. I encourage you to find out more information. We're going to have those all in the show notes, links, so that you can find out more about what we discussed here. And the website is, the main website that you can go to is www.au6rc.org. But again, we'll have that in the show notes and other links there as well for you to check out, so that you can learn how to get involved, how to get connected, how to support, how to do business with Africa. So we look forward to hearing your stories. You can reach out to us on LinkedIn. I don't know where that came from, but LinkedIn too. Yeah, you can connect us on LinkedIn. But leadersoftransformation.com is our website. You can find us on social media. And we just look forward to hearing your stories and hearing how this has inspired you and some of the ideas that you may have about how you might be able to get involved. And we'd love to hear your stories about how this has inspired you to be the difference maker and the world changer that you're capable of being. All of these ideas began with one person or a few people coming together and having an idea. And and then building and fostering those ideas and saying, we need to come together. We need to bring unity. So if you've got ideas, you know what? Look at what's possible when a few people come together and say, let's do this, and what can happen. And you can change and transform not only a continent, you can change an entire world by doing that. And so you might just have that idea that's sitting, rolling around in your brain, and there might be other people that have a similar idea, and you can get together and make something happen. So we encourage you to do that. Leaders of Transformation, take action. Take action today on something that you learn. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Leaders of Transformation real soon.